Okay, there's a couple more folks taking photos. Thanks, James.
I'll just sit. I'll sit here. Here, you come over here. Okay. Great. Feet don't touch the ground. Women in tech. The table's too high.
Super.
I think you can raise your chair. It's just.
Who do I introduce first?
Yay, for letting us know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so welcome to the.
thank you, James.
Well, that's just what this is. Yeah. She's gonna introduce, well, we can just the chairs up there, let's do that. And then if you can hand it to Margaret after that, because Margaret will not let it. So that makes sense. Yourself, and then house conference. And Mike is on it whenever you're ready. What's the podium? Podium? Yes, kind of. Whatever is comfortable. And then however you're comfortable. And then you can hand it off to Margaret. Okay? Okay. Well, aloha and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here bright and early. I'm Sherry Minoru with the Chamber of Commerce Hawaii. Certainly excited about this event. It's the first time we're doing a Women in Tech panel. I mean, look at these strong women, so let's give them a round of applause. You know, this is a growing industry, and at the Chamber, we believe that we need to do more to invest in this industry. In October, we launched our 2030 Blueprint, an economic action plan. And we got independent consultants to review all the data out there to determine what are some areas we need to invest more in. And definitely tech is one of them. with all these cool jobs coming up, whether it's in AI, cybersecurity, or even integrating technology in our local businesses, this is an area of growth. And so we're excited that this was part of our 2330 blueprint, and we're going to continue to invest in that. But we cannot do it alone, and that's why we have all of you here. And also important is to ensure that we have our policymakers part of a discussion. We are so fortunate to have champions at the legislature to push tech forward and to identify opportunities, identify policies that will help build this industry. So at this time, I'd like to introduce one of our chairs, the House Chair of Economic Development, Gregor Iligan, who has been instrumental in pushing some of our bills this session as it relates to technology. And we look forward to continuing to work with Rep. And of course, Senator, who will be introduced later. So Rep, I'm going to turn it over to you. So again, thank you to all of you for being here bright and early.
Aloha! Aloha! Well, good morning, everyone. It's definitely a joy to be here with you. This idea of having a panel of incredible women has been an idea we've been thinking about, and now it's a reality. And I have a short, brief intro for you. My name is Representative Gregor Iligan. I am the Chair for Economic Development and Technology. Today is about celebrating and learning from amazing women leading the way in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Their presence underscores our collective commitment to fostering gender equality in tech, where tech roles are often 70 to 80% male-dominated. As someone who works to advance innovation and economic opportunity in Hawaii, I know firsthand how essential diverse voices are to shaping our future. As we engage in today's discussions and activities, let's celebrate the achievements of women in STEM and entrepreneurship and reaffirm our commitment to creating an environment where their contributions are recognized and valued. Let's keep working together on a future where every young girl sees herself as a scientist, as an innovator, and as a leader. Today, we can build a more inclusive and innovative tomorrow. Thank you all for attending and listening to our incredible women leaders.
Hello, everyone. I'm Henry Aquino. I chair the Senate Labor and Technology Committee. I just want to thank the Chamber as well as the Hawaii Women in Technology organization for truly sponsoring this one-of-a-kind, first-time ever panel. There's a lot that we can share about, with the Senate. The Senate has been innovative for many years now. We've elected 2 female Senate presidents with Senator Colleen Hanabusa as well as Senator Donna Kim. So we have a history of empowering women. Yeah, so this is kind of what the focus is today. Also, we have, pending the confirmation vote, the first female CIO, Christine Sakura. Everybody, a big hand for her. Hopefully, the floor vote will be soon. We can make her official. But again, I'd like to thank the Chamber, as well as the Hawaii Women in Technology organization for having this panel today. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Senator Aquino and Representative Iligan for hosting this discussion today, and mahalo to everyone for joining us for this conversation, this important discussion on empowering women in tech and, sorry about that, for empowering women in tech and how we're going to build a future-ready workforce for Hawaii's tech future. And in my view, technology is not just an industry, it's an opportunity. It's a lifeline to opportunity for the people of Hawaii. And As I look at that opportunity, we have to ask ourselves, what steps can we take as public, private, academic partners to really drive this forward? And we have some amazing leaders, trailblazers, and change makers with us today to talk about actionable strategies, their career journeys, and their insights. So mahalo panelists, thank you for joining us all today. One note, Lauren Shim's not able to join us today due to illness, but we have an amazing set of leaders to drive today's discussion. So looking forward to this. Panelists, should we start with some introductions? And maybe share your name, your role, your organization, and share a few thoughts with the audience about how this topic touches you. Shall we go ahead, Joelle? Shall we go ahead and go down the line?
All right. Hi, aloha, good morning. My name is Joelle Simone Pietri. My company is Simone Pietri Enterprises, which nobody can spell or say. So the technology and projects we're developing are called Aloha Carbon, which is technology to convert construction and demolition debris and other solid wastes into pipeline quality renewable fuel. We're starting with the renewable natural gas to sell to Hawaii Gas here on Oahu. And our project is also under development in Kapolei here on Oahu. Our other technology that's under development is called Aloha Fertilizer, and also easier to spell and say. And that is taking locally sourced organic wastes and basically manufacturing an organic fertilizer, again, from waste generated here on Oahu for use here in Hawaii. What we focus on is sort of import substitution, trying to make internationally viable products, but based on materials generated here for use here. And we use just about every single science, technology, engineering, and math discipline to make all of that happen. So lots of good workforce opportunities.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Christine Ma'i'i Sakura, and I'm the State Chief Information Officer. It's a privilege to be serving in that role for 8 months. And before that, I ran a couple of nonprofits, community nonprofits that really focused on leveraging technology to solve community problems. I'd like to thank the governor for his appointment. This is a cabinet level position. And I'd also like to thank Chairs Iligan and Aquino for their partnership, because it really takes a village to really advance technology in the state of Hawaii, in state government and in the community. And so I'm looking forward to answering any questions and being on this wonderful panel. Mahalo.
Yes, good morning. My name is Olga Boric-Lebecki. I'm professor of electrical engineering at University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm also a co-founder of 2 startup companies, and I'm working closely with my students who have also spun their own companies, and there are more to come. So my research work and tech transfer work has been on non-invasive physiological monitoring, and my latest focus is on health and wellness for the elderly. So we're looking at methods of fall prevention. And I would like to thank Margaret for inviting me to be on this panel, and Representative and Senator for supporting this effort. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicole Kakal. I am the Executive Director of the True Initiative here in Hawaii. We essentially help tech-enable Hawaii-based organizations so we can create more tech jobs across the state. We build public-private partnerships, which I'm more than happy to speak more about today. And am I forgetting anything, or no? Yeah, so thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for allowing me to share my journey and my story as well.
Thank you. Mahalo for such great leadership to join us today. And as you can see, everyone, from the classroom to the boardroom, we've made progress with representation of women in tech. But the fact and the discussion we'll have today is there are still challenges. Women are still underrepresented in every level of tech and in the industry. So that's a challenge we're going to tackle today. But maybe let's start with the big picture, because a lot of times we ask ourselves, is there tech in Hawaii? Is there a tech future in Hawaii? We've been working on this. Where is it going, and what are the opportunities? So maybe let's start with the big picture. Hawaii is certainly not the Silicon Valley, and it isn't trying to be. We have our own deep cultural roots. We have our strategic location in the Pacific, and we have a broad range of technologies, as you can see, being developed right here on the island. So for our first question, what I'd like to hear is your perspective on what technology industries do you believe are best positioned to thrive here on Hawaii, and what is the potential for the next 5 to 10 years, not just for economic growth, but for true impact across our communities? And Christine, I know you've seen firsthand digital transformation and how it's changing how government works. Maybe you'd like to start us off, and then folks feel free to add to the discussion. We'll keep this open.
Sure, thank you. The state government is made up of a combination of older systems and infrastructure and also new cutting-edge infrastructure. And so one of our goals is to make sure that government is able to deliver services when and where needed to the people of Hawaii. And more that requires technology to be in the cloud, for systems to be integrated, to be accessible, to be efficient and effective. And so it's a big priority for my office, which is the Office of Enterprise Technology Services, to work very closely with the departments and help them deliver their services to the community, and also look at ways of organizing the infrastructure across the government enterprise, which does include a lot of integrated infrastructure in the cloud, integrating data, leveraging AI. So those are huge opportunities for state government.
Thank you, Christine. I'd like to open it up to anyone else who'd like to comment, because we have such a wide variety from IT, cyber. Who would like to add?
I'd like to jump in. So some of the sectors that I've seen in my experience that have tremendous opportunity here in Hawaii, they stem from renewable energy to sustainability solutions. And I think we're well positioned to really innovate in those fields because we have a culture and community of stewardship here. And I think we can really lean into that and leverage that to be able to create more robust innovations and really utilize our collaborations with the university, the private sector, the public sector, you name it, to be able to drive forward toward the same solution.
Yes, and I agree with Nicole. I think renewable energy and sustainability are very, very critical areas for Hawaii, and also areas where we have an opportunity to contribute significantly. And another area is healthcare.
Yeah. Yes. I saw an interesting statistic that of the founders, women play a very large role in a large percentage of software, new software startups, and software, of course, being key for Hawaii. But Joelle, it's not always about software, right?
Well, one of the phrases, as kind of an entrepreneur and an inventor, one of the phrases that I keep coming back to is necessity is the mother of invention. Not the father, the mother. Although there's opportunities for growth in all areas. And another one is that, I wish I knew who pointed this out, how, you can't spell sustainability without Aina. And I think that's also really important. So when sort of asked this question, like, what should we focus on in Hawaii? My answer is, well, let's start with the problems that need solving. And so that's why, for me and my company, we focused on, every single county has a landfill that's almost at the end of life. Nobody thinks that, a true solution to waste is sticking it in a hole in the ground and calling that good. And so So I and my team, we basically went on a global search for technologies, both physical as well as information technology, to try and solve those problems. We've brought in world-class modeling and simulation tools, computational particle fluid dynamics modeling, process engineering to take, what's a garbage, just a mixed bag of stuff, literally, and try and actually make it into something that can be airworthy and go into an aircraft, and, not cause any technical concerns. So now our next workforce development challenge is training up the people to actually run those tools. So.
And you're diving right into actually my next question, really getting to the heart of workforce development. So the most valuable asset of the tech industry is not machines, it's not buildings, it's the brains and minds of the people of our workforce. And if we want to prepare a future-ready tech workforce for Hawaii to drive innovation, we need to develop and support that talent pool. So as we look at the future of developing Hawaii's workforce, what are the biggest challenges? This is the traditional, what's keeping you awake at night question, so spoiler alert. What are the major challenges and gaps, the top one, that you see holding us back as we have to build up a resilient, future-ready tech workforce that is inclusive and creates an environment where women can thrive? And who would like to open up to that?
Well, I can open up to that, yes. Speaking for our students at UH, I think what we worry about the most is brain drain. A lot of our students graduate and go to the mainland because they feel that they do not have opportunities here. Or if they find a job here, and maybe in construction industry may not be paid very well. So I think it's really, really important. If we want that workforce to stay, we need to create opportunities for them. And some of our students have taken initiative where they actually create their own jobs. So I think this is where entrepreneurship comes in, and we can help support them in that endeavor. But what I'm saying is, like, we can make a lot of effort in creating a workforce, but if they do not have a path to stay and thrive in Hawaii, they're going to leave. So I think that's something that we really need to think about addressing.
Would anyone else like to comment to this one?
I think that when I reflect on the Women in Technology panel in preparation for today, we're not solving technology challenges, we're solving community challenges. And so preparing the IT workforce is also preparing them to clearly define challenges and problems that they're trying to solve, and also building their technology proficiency. So both, I think, are critical for success. It's not just engineers and tech people and looking for jobs. It's people, how do we help connect emerging women in technology leaders with, the experience to help identify community challenges and be able to define them, very clearly to help solve them.
Christine, you're pointing out something very important, and I hear this question a lot as I speak to leaders around Hawaii, and it comes to taking a step back and looking at the pipeline. What are the skills? What is the knowledge? How can we better train, better educate, or where do we need to educate that pipeline that's going to come in and drive these technologies forward? And that's actually one of our one of the questions I'd like to ask this panel, and I'll just throw a quick statistic out there. This is from the Society of Women Engineers, that women make up about 13% of the engineering workforce, but have 22% of the bachelor's degrees. So what that means is we're actually losing a lot of that talent as we go from high school to college, and then college into the workforce. So we're losing that pipeline. We need to build that up, and education and access, of course, certainly is key to that. So if we look at what actions we can take, it's multifaceted, of course, across the schools, the universities. But what do you think we can do differently? What do you think we can do better And this question is so important because I know there are several people in the audience working directly on this challenge of how do I bring the skills and what should those skills be? So Olga, I know you and I had a great conversation on this. Why don't you lead us off? But I'd love to hear from all the panelists on this.
Yeah, so I think more opportunities for students to understand what skills they need is it's very helpful. So that could mean internships, for example, opening more opportunities for students to gain some practical experience and actually really learn what the problems are. And I can give you an example. We have been working very closely with HECO, maybe for the last 5 years or so, to help them develop the workforce that they need. So we established this project. It's called Vertically Integrated Project, that was actually initiated from HECO to introduce the skills that they want to see in their workforce. So we can do this at UH if we know what local industry needs, right? And if the local industry is interested in working with our students, we can facilitate that, right? But we don't always know what that may be, right? So I would encourage more interaction, I guess, between local industry and the university so that we can understand better what those skills may be, and we can help to develop that for our students.
I would definitely tend to agree with Olga that when we're trying to develop programs and design programs that can bridge the gap between what we're learning in our schools and with industry, we can create more robust programs where you're creating clear pathways for young women to be able to not only leverage those new skills that they're learning, but to apply them to, I hate calling them real world application, because everything that they're learning in a studio-like setting, in a design challenge or what have you, you bring that tangible context to the table. And so I think in addition to bridging that gap, we should also be doing more outreach in underserved communities and under-resourced areas. And we can develop programs like mobile labs or mobile innovation labs and things like that, so we can meet people where they are, essentially. And I think there's not enough of that. I'm speaking from my own experiences. I'm also speaking about some conversations that I'm having with some independent schools here in Hawaii that are looking to build partnerships with the industry and develop studio-like classes so that they can apply the tech talent that they're learning in tech electives, tech core courses, and things like that with either finite projects with industry partners or ongoing projects. And so we just need that flexibility and that ability to envision how we might engage more young women and girls, especially from the high school level as well.
I'd like to springboard off of that too, because we have hired, at ETS, we've actually hired cybersecurity staff that start off as interns. And so the concept of interns, I think, is pretty critical, where you're giving them that little boost of confidence, that little bit of opportunity to test something, to try something in partnership with, I think it was the University of Hawaii, West Oahu, has a cybersecurity program, and we're happy to take the interns, and many of them stay. And I had the privilege of serving on the board of TRU, and we had a couple of other supported internship programs. And the interns that are nurtured within organizations have a tendency to stay because everyone's looking for talent. And so I think those are great opportunities. And another one that comes to mind is ETS sponsors the Hawaii Annual Code Challenge. And that code challenge is a week long, and teams are created. A lot of them come from the university and high schools. But part of the program is we partner with industry partners and vendors to help give the students not only technical skills and coding skills in Python and a variety of AI tools, but also how to present, how to do project management, and they just do a wonderful job. So if looking at the students that present on presentation day at the code challenge is an indication of the bright spots in our community, then it just I have a lot of confidence and optimism for our future generations. You know, they just need to be nurtured.
Joelle, I know you're coming from a very specific, exciting field, but I think there's challenges in finding some of that workforce.
Yeah, so on the positive side, so my company's got 10 people. As it happens right now, 7 are women, which was not at all intentional. We do have a quasi-formal internship program at the University of Hawaii. I only have the bandwidth to take on 1 or 2 a year. And so we advertise with the College of Engineering. We also advertise with UH West Oahu, again, because I want, like, in an ideal world, somebody who is growing up in Waianae to Kapolei is interested in coming to work for us and will actually go and get a process or chemical engineering degree, because right now we can't hire anybody with that degree from any academic institution in Hawaii. So chemical engineers that are already here, we're all educated on the mainland. Ideally, I would have, you know, a local kid, you know, willing to go and get the training and then come back and work for us. Like I said, we've got the world-class modeling and simulation tools. I literally had to hire, I hired a young lady who's a digital nomad. She's got a degree in biology, and I have her pretending to be a chemical engineer, and she's going to go to Texas for a month and just sit side saddle with very expensive engineers that we have to hire for her to learn how to run the software. And so I'd love to be able to, you know, hire locally. Now, that might be a little bit unique for us, but again, in renewable energy, there's electricity and there's fuels, and you really actually do need to understand chemistry, you know, or at least, you know, how to actually make stuff out of stuff in order to actually do renewable fuels production. So that's, you know, one of our challenges. I would like to come back to your last question, which is what keeps us up at night, because we kind of moved on from that a bit quickly. To pay all of those, you know, 10 people who've got on payroll, we're basically at this point almost entirely funded by federal research and development grants. Half of them have been paused, you know, or some subject to some kind of uncertainty. The small business innovation research ones so far, you know, knock on wood, have not been touched. Although, you know, so what keeps me awake at night is we've got a multi-year, multi-phase research development technology and project development strategy and plan. I've got the people in place to execute it, but the fundraising to do that, you know, as we grow out of the research and development and actually into executing a steel in the ground plant, unfortunately, we have to go to the mainland to raise that kind of funding to actually build something, and Hawaii does not have a good reputation as being a place to do business. So in addition to being a female entrepreneur, and normally women are not, you know, building power plants or refineries, I'm normally the only woman in the room in these conversations, which is why it's so weird that I'm not anywhere, at least in our, anyway. So, you know, on top of being an entrepreneur and female and trying to do like a first of a kind refinery, then having to raise money for a project in Hawaii, you know. So, you know, things like permitting, permit facilitation, so that we could actually, you know, get a permit approved before the plant's actually built and operating for a couple of years. That would be nice, for starters. So, all right.
You bring up 2 points. And speaking of keeping awake at night, you know, we've talked about the, you know, excuse me, one topic I want to make sure we cover before we open up to the floor for questions is the continuation. So we've talked about students, enabling students with educational access. We've talked about the internship, early entry. Now, looking past the classroom, once students transition into the workforce, there's actually an alarming statistic that when they're in the workforce, the challenge now becomes, pardon me, the challenge now becomes having them be retained, that is, to stay in tech and thrive. And there's an alarming statistic, and unfortunately I've been quoting this statistic, I think, for the last 5 years, and that is half of women in tech will leave the field by 35 years old. There's a drop-off. And that, of course, as Hawaii is looking to actually grow their tech workforce, what tactics, what strategies can we take to ensure that women are thriving in every stage of their career, but also that we're not seeing that drop off? And I think there's several strategies that might be a good springboard for questions with the audience as well. So could we tackle that one and then open up for questions?
Sure. So I think we need to get really serious about mentorship and sponsorship. Not just
I was hoping you'd say that.
not just paying lip service to it, because when you think about mentorship, and I'm a huge supporter of mentorship, when you think about entrepreneurship as well, you need, especially women need both an advisor and a mentor, and they do two fundamentally different things. Mentors can help you along with the emotional journey, sharing their story, sharing what they did when they were in your shoes. Advisors can give you the really technical, boots on the ground advice, where I know some friends of mine that went through world-class accelerators, for example, but they said that they wished if they could change one thing about the accelerator, it would be that they would have an advisor that actually knew about their niche and their business model better. So I think, yes, mentorship and sponsorship are important, but having that specific expertise to really guide you through clear pathways is really critical.
I would like to layer onto that, like you, mentorship, sponsorship, advocacy. They're talked about. It's very difficult in reality to scale that. And not without good intent, larger companies can absolutely, say a Boeing or an IBM, they can set up their own mentorship network and they can drive that. But if it's small, medium businesses, it's very difficult, and there's tremendous value to have those mentors from outside your company, not just inside of your company. So what are our options? What does Hawaii have? We have a fantastic public-private partnership sector. We've got great networks. What is there a potential to create a Hawaii-wide mentorship sponsorship network, and what would that look like?
Well, I can add to that. So we have a number of different organizations, such as Society of Women Engineers, Women in Engineering, right? It may be helpful to have an umbrella organization like Women in Tech work with those smaller organizations to essentially reach out and maybe organize these kind of opportunities for members, right? So I think if we work together, right, if we bring these organizations together, we would be able to reach out to more young women and perhaps students.
Be the connective tissue
Right.
between those organizations. Any other thoughts on mentorship or sponsorship? And I know hopefully the audience, hopefully that was a 5-minute warning on getting your questions ready. So hopefully we've got some teed up. Any last comments before?
But I appreciate Nicole's feedback on mentorship and advisors, because I don't know if I had a mentor for most of my career. I just kind of winged it, and when I did get a mentor later on in my career, I really appreciated the value of that. So I think that part of the goal of creating this sort of network of support is getting the buy-in from leadership that is actually needed and that's worth investing in. I don't know how many companies and organizations invest and encourage being a mentor and being an advisor or funding that or supporting that. So I think that's part of the investment in the workforce that we should really seriously consider. I think that I'd be happy to participate in building a program, with the university and the educational system to figure out how to do that. Because I think the mentors and advisors and internships are really critical to our creating pathways for the younger generations. And so, but your other comment of what happens when the young women get into the workforce, and I do think that leadership beyond mentorship and advisors has to be there to encourage them. At ETS, we have a hybrid work environment, so it's 3 days in the office and 2 days out. And that creates some organizational challenges for us, but it also creates opportunities for men and women, but I'm thinking of women in particular, to just, take care of their personal needs, which is important, and their family needs, their mental health needs. And I think that's critical to keeping, especially the younger generation, on staff.
Great reflections.
Well, since the federal government isn't allowing anybody to work remotely right now, it's a fantastic recruiting opportunity for everybody else.
Well, without further ado, I'd like to turn the mic over to the audience. Please. Yes, Sandra. Oh, Sandra, if you can come to the podium. Yes, it looks like we've got a hot mic ready for you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your fantastic insights. They were so fabulous, and I was taking notes, and I learned so much from all of you. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Sandra von Duytnichem is my name. My background is in workforce development in the intersection of education, and I'm also the founder of my company, Skill Tomorrow. And during my work, I worked with the Chamber of Commerce Foundation on initiatives that help to decrease the labor shortage in the US. And I found that multi-generational initiatives are so essential for our future of work. And this ties into the question that Margaret just said. And I've read a quote yesterday, and it really stuck out to me. The future of work is not only AI, it's the multi-generational workforce. At the same time, we experience ageism 4 out of 5 workers, with women in the tech industry experiencing the highest level of ageism, unfortunately. And my question is, what are your thoughts on ageism in the tech industry, and how can workforce initiatives and how can employers help to decrease ageism, and what kind of initiatives can we do for women that want to enter the tech industry, especially over the age of 50?
I have a perspective that I'd like to share. There's something I really strongly believe in that's called reciprocal mentorship. And that's where it's a two-way street rather than one person is benefiting from the relationship. I believe that both the mentor and the mentee can benefit off of knowledge sharing and sharing that collective intelligence. And I think by normalizing that, more people can be able to spread that knowledge and spread the expertise and really just not only leverage that expertise, but really have that propensity to share and have that culture of sharing to be able to not only help people in their career paths, but really help them with what I believe are durable skills, not just soft skills. Going back off of what Christine was saying before, you have to really nurture people along their journey. And I think ageism is something that, it exists. We can't pretend it doesn't exist, but I believe that through things like reciprocal mentorship, we can alleviate that.
Great answer. Thank you.
I just would like to comment on that as well, because in state government, and this is true in the Office of Enterprise Technology Services, that we probably have every generation working within ETS. And I think we can do a better job, in instilling programs with intention that Nicole is talking about. And when I first started at ETS, I met every single employee. And from the one who's been there for 30 years to the one who just started, they're deeply committed to public service, to technology, and how can we, the ones that have been there for a long time, have this very, very deep knowledge base of working within government and serving. And so every generation is an asset to another generation. And I think that, I'm going to take that back, to ETS, is how can we celebrate that within our organization, because it is so critical to keep the knowledge transfer going from the generations and as people move in and out of public service. Thank you.
I think periodically I take a leadership and supervisor training, and probably the most valuable one I've ever taken was actually just a module on the different generations and the different perspectives that they bring to work. The differences between a baby boomer, a Gen Xer, a millennial, you know, and having, it's almost like sort of like naming it, you know, in order to underdiagnose it. Having that sort of framework to understand the different perspectives that 4 people at the table might be 4 different generations. And it helps to do a lot for conflict resolution. It helps to avoid a lot of misunderstandings if everybody's had that sort of perspective, you know. And then, you know, I'll actually, as it so happens in my tiny little company of 10 people, we actually have 5 generations. You know, we've got everything from 19 years old to 72 years old. You know, we just sort of like embrace it. And when the 72-year-old does not know how to actually log into their email, I'll send the 19-year-old over to their house and help them actually like get on the laptop and do it, kind of thing.
Fabulous question, Sandra. Thank you. Another question? Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, mahalo for all of your beautiful insight. My name is Seiichi Nagai, and I've been working as a software engineer in the renewable tech space for almost a decade, and I quit this year to focus on AI and AI workforce development. And so I've seen as an engineer that AI can, you know, multiply your output like 10x, you know, easily. And with other areas of an organization or organizations that have no software, et cetera, it can increase a worker's output by 70%, like on average. And so for the whole organization, it's not just 70% because for the whole, it's not equal to the sum of its parts. And so my question is, what is the state doing and what are your organizations doing to facilitate workforce development in AI specifically to, as it has the ability to not just catch up to where other technology trends are, but leapfrog Hawaii's workforce?
Seiichi, I'm glad you're bringing that question up because I'll just throw a statistic out. In 2019, I think World Economic Forum had already said by 2030, let me get the numbers right, 40 to 160 million women would have to upskill or reskill. This was just from automation in order to maintain their position in tech. And if they did not, we would have an even wider gender skills gap in technology. That was just automation, Seiichi. And now we're looking at AI. So AI definitely, you know, a blessing, but also a clear and present danger for the workforce development. So fantastic question. I'd love to hear your perspectives.
Well, I can say a few words. We are training our students at UH. We do have a number of courses that address AI. There are also a number of issues now because, you know, when we're grading assignments, right, is this a student or is it AI generated? So it's kind of a balance. I can tell you, for example, for UH Venture competition, students were told that AI is a tool that they can use, just like a calculator is a tool. You know, for some areas it's acceptable. In engineering in general, you know, there are areas where it's okay to use it. But we also want to train our students to be able to think for themselves, right? Not just get the answers right from AI. So it is a balance, I would say, from the perspective of engineering education, you know, learning how to use the tool while you're also teaching students to think for themselves.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Seiji. When I talk to the department directors, there's almost a universal desire to leverage AI to help the workforce do their job better, faster, to arm them with the knowledge that's in the deep archives of their department that are on some paper system somewhere, some of it, but in different places to really serve the public. And so ETS has been working very closely with it. We have a chief data officer, and we have just finalized our AI use guidelines to really help the departments use AI responsibly, because we have a big data is a big asset for government. We want to protect that. We want to leverage the AI carefully. And so those things are all kind of swirling together. But we are really working with the departments to figure out how can we really invest in AI tools. And some of them are in existence now, and the workforce is learning how to use them responsibly and also maximize the use of that to be able to serve the public better. And so we're just going to expand that more and more, and want to thank two of our technology chairs for supporting some of the the bills and the intent of, how do we leverage data and AI to serve our public better. Thank you.
I'd say from my perspective, it kind of goes back to the same sort of prompt, that you do for innovation in itself. What's the problem that AI could solve? Where is there a repetitive or time-consuming, non-value added task? It's almost like the same sort of thought process. For me, and maybe, again, I'm a Gen Xer, so I might be limited in my perspective on this, but it's like, it's kind of like sort of the same thought process as how can you, take this dangerous job and minimize it? And so how can AI help along those lines? So for my company, we've got some very specific use cases where AI definitely helps. Like one is like, real-time, visual recognition of objects on a sorting, belt, in order to be able to have a machine, remove that offending item that might cause issues in our system, rather than having a human have to do, a boring, dull, dangerous task. And at this point, there are companies that have already developed those tools and trained the sensors. So unfortunately, it's the workforce development opportunity is probably sort of limited to having somebody here who can help maintain and optimize it, for our process going forward. Other things that I find myself using AI for is if I need to do yet another legal document, just put in a prompt. It's like, I need a joint development agreement with this kind of a company for this, and then I end up having to do a whole lot of work on it later. So, and still send it to an actual attorney to, quality check it.
Great example. Thank you, Seichi. Dora.
Thank you guys, all very familiar faces, and appreciate you guys all being here to share your insights and experiences. One of the things, and you mentioned already, it takes a village to, connect with our communities. I wanted to just pose this question to you all and maybe think about maybe how we could expand. And I worked in technology most of my career, pretty much. I had a little stint at an educational institution, but that opened my eyes to how kids embrace. And I mean, we all work to learn, but how do we individually get excited about a career path in science, engineering, technology, math, or whatever? Because those were the harder classes. Everyone was like, I don't want to take that class, right? So I kind of wanted to just maybe step back and ask that question of what sparked your interest. And think about how maybe we can start this whole process. I know internships are important, but maybe step back a little bit earlier and start that exposure, just like teaching someone language. Start them earlier. Maybe use that connection of a language to travel. How do we then connect that to technology? But the questions are to how do we inspire or spark at an earlier age? Then let them to play in that field a little bit. Then allow them to practice that then they perform. And I know a lot of schools already do that. In college, we do that.
And then at some point, that performance leads you to become the trainer that can then train the next generation, and that can be at all ages. So I kind of wanted to see how maybe we could think about all the resources that we have, whether it's public, private, or academic, DOE, the CTEs, whatever it is, and maybe channel it into this, thinking about it. We do a lot of things at elementary. We do a lot of things at high school. A gap that I learned was in middle school. They don't have anybody that takes care of them after they get off of school because the parents are probably working. How can we create something that allows them to have that playing and practice, that maybe they get the knowledge in school, but they don't have that play and practice time, and then allows them to then be inspired to go into the performance side, performing in terms of doing, and then having those pathways from the industries that can connect to say, hey, this is a job that maybe is here now for you, because we don't have those mentors or those exposures or those opportunities here because you're developing them right now. And I feel like that's my challenge all the time, is creating those pathways that open up minds, that allows the new technologies to come, but doesn't leave the past in behind. We have to integrate it. It's interoperability is the word that I like to use. So just wanted to leave that. Sorry, a lot of food for thought.
Great perspectives, Dora. I know, looking at our time and needing to wrap, maybe just one or two brief comments to Dora's Dora's findings.
Yes, well, I can speak to that a little bit again from the education perspective. I think outreach is very important, and middle school, as Dora identified, is a critical age where we see a lot of girls deciding that STEM is not a career for them. So I think going out to schools, talking to students about STEM, bringing projects where they can get involved at a young age, I think that's very important. Another thing is that I would like to mention is I think we have an opportunity, especially with sustainability and renewable energy, to attract students to these fields, because especially underrepresented students, and this is not only girls, they tend to go to the fields where they feel that they can relate to. So the fields that are less abstract to them. If we say just electrical engineering, they may not necessarily know what that means. But if we say you can, work on this technology, which is going to bring clean energy to Hawaii, which is going to, make Hawaii more sustainable, that's a lot better recruiting tool. So I think there is a lot that we can do there to, encourage students to go into STEM fields. Yeah.
I think, so from my perspective, nobody, as a 5-year-old says, I want to be a GIS analyst, So to kind of like put those together with Dora's question, I think, identifying the gap for middle school is really interesting because I hadn't really articulated it like that. I think the State Science and Engineering Fair is a fantastic opportunity to sort of leverage that, because every single middle school, has a team competing. And so like those teachers and some schools don't have like a teacher or a parent, who's doing the coaching. So the kids are kind of sort of making it up, some of them anyway, I would say leverage the Science and Engineering Fair because that's already really, really well targeted at middle schoolers. And kind of coming back to that, it's not the how you do it, it's the why that matters. So like in our job postings at University of Hawaii, like the first bullet is must be passionate about sustainability. If you're in it just for the money, go somewhere else. But if you're passionate about why we're doing what we're doing, we will figure out how to get you the skills that you need to do what we need.
This is a fabulous discussion that we should continue in our networking break as we're wrapping up. But I wanted to end with one reflection, and that is you cannot spell sustainability without Aina. Social media is going crazy with that right now, for sure. I love that. Mahalo. Mahalo, panelists. Mahalo, everyone, for joining this conversation. And Nikki, what's our plan?
Yes.
Okay. Folks, please.
Nice to meet you.